let's just go to this point here. Good. And Angel says Hacksaw and Riley on a Friday. Nice. So maybe this is a good time.
Yeah, so we could do that and just send them off drinking on Friday afternoon when they're done with us.
Exactly. And remember, we originally did this starting Thursdays only when we first kicked it off.
And then we came up with Monday bonus podcast, and I don't know, maybe Fabulous Friday works.
We want Hacksaw back on the air 5 days a week.
No, not yet. But my favorite phrase is Beer Friday, Football Friday.
There you go.
Yeah. I'll have my people talk to his people. We'll let you know on that. Angel, thanks for joining us. Go ahead, next one.
All right, let's go here to Cal and talk some hockey. Afternoon, gents. Saw Jacob Trouba is now a Duck. Do you believe him and Radko Gudas will be on the same D pair, or will they split them up to play with the kids? The modern-day Bash brothers are in Orange County now.
Yeah, Orange Country.
The
Ducks traded a fourth-round draft pick and one of their other defensemen mid-afternoon today to get Jacob Trouba, the captain of the New York Rangers. He's an offensive guy who can flash. He's big. He's tough. And that's the protege now of what that general manager, Pat Verbeek, wants, is he wants big guys in front of his goaltenders, and he's got another big one. I think they'll split him up. We'll see if they can match him with one of the younger guys there. So you got a skill guy on one side, and you got Trouba stay at home who can bash people in the front. But yeah, Ducks are much more physical now, and Gudas, he's a warrior, and he's the captain of their team. So that's a pretty good acquisition. They did not give up Trevor Zegras. They did not give up any of the other young defensemen. Did not give up Cam Fowler or John Gibson, because their names had also been mentioned in trade talks. But getting Trouba as a start, and the Ducks are playing better. I don't know if they're about to turn the corner, but they're playing much more competitive hockey with all the young guys that they've got.
Loving the reference to the Bash brothers.
Yeah.
McGuire, Canseco. That was a great run back in the late 80s. So it's nice to see Orange County. The Ducks are like turning it around finally.
Orange Country.
Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go here to John. And he says, Bieniemy was a hot name a couple of years ago, mentioned every time there was an opening. Now gone at UCLA. What the hell?
Well, didn't interview well for NFL jobs. And maybe some guys are just not cut out to be NFL head coaches. Maybe he just is a great X's and O's guy. But what I heard from UCLA was, he was really loud. He was the bad cop for Deshaun Foster. He was in players' faces all the time. But the playbook was so complicated in terms of the verbiage of the play calls that it was just confusing. And it took a lot of time to get the plays in, and then the quarterback had to read the defenses, and they got a lot of delay of game penalties, and they turned it over a lot. So maybe he's just too smart for the college game, too intellectual for the college game, but it's a setback, because I really thought I'd like him. He played for the Chargers. All the stuff I knew about him leaving the NFL to go back to college to actually get his degree so he could go to Colorado and coach. I thought there were so many positives about the person, but obviously some guys are fit for a job here, but not fit for this job down here. So he'll land on his feet. Maybe he winds up going back to Andy Reid.
Yeah, he might be a better fit for the NFL. We talk about with head coaches, same with assistant coaches. But the kids at UCLA are smart. Even the football players have still got to meet minimum criteria to get in. But I think it's to the point of, if the playbook is too complicated, you don't want your players kind of thinking and processing all the time. They got to be able to make it simple so they can react and then show off their athleticism.
Well, if you're making a complicated play call through the headset to Ethan Garbers, the quarterback, and he says that in the huddle, this, and this, which involves the formation, involves the blocking assignments, et cetera, and they get to the line of scrimmage, and it's a complicated thing, and he's got to do his pre-reads, and he's going to change the play at the line of scrimmage. Now they got to process that information.
Yeah.
We're talking college kids here.
Yeah, they're like 19 and 20.
So I think
that's hard.
That critique is probably right on. Thanks for the comment, John. Next topic.
Okay, let's go here. Angels. He wants to talk about the Chargers. He goes, Chargers Chiefs could be an AFC playoff preview, and Chargers have a chance to catch Kansas City off guard and pull an upset at Arrowhead.
Except that Justin Herbert doesn't have everybody in the lineup. If Ladd McConkey can't play, and he's hardly practiced at all because he's been so dinged up, and they don't have J.K. Dobbins, which means they're not running the football very efficiently, even with Gus Edwards. And Quentin Johnston has now had a couple of real bad games in a row with wrong routes, drop passes, etc. And their defenses, all their linebackers are hurt this week. They had 9 defensive players, all marquee names, could not practice for chunks of time this week. It's going to be hard. And Kansas City's not going to let down because Kansas City still thinks they're in the chase for home field in the AFC. So you got a real dogfight. I still think the best football for the Chiefs is still to be played. And now with the news that Marquise Brown's going to be back before the playoffs start, and Isaac Pacheco is back at running back to team with Kareem Hunt, but they have to solve this problem. This left tackle, right tackle thing is a real disaster. Nobody around the league is talking about how many penalties those 2 tackles have had. And now they're putting DJ Humphries in at left tackle, and he's had a lot of injuries. He's a big old guy from the Arizona Cardinals, but maybe he'll play better than they were getting because they were moving guards into tackle, and they could not protect him. So I think the Chiefs just are too good, and it's Arrowhead. Arrowhead's really hard, and Justin Herbert's 2-6 against Kansas City.
Pacheco is hella good. I mean, that guy just grinds yards.
Fire plug.
Yeah, and just goes, and he catches big passes. But I want to talk a little bit about kind of a bit of a tangent. We're all upset about the hit on Trevor Lawrence, right?
Yes.
And he slid and got taken out by the Texans. He's been suspended. Some people have said that when quarterbacks are scrambling, they'll kind of fake the slide and then run further. And Mahomes does that all the time. So do you think that should maybe be a penalty on the quarterback if they're kind of faking the slide?
No, not at all, because he's not going down. I was so disappointed in DeMeco Ryans. I mean, he blamed Trevor Lawrence for the injury. He went down. Well, at the end of the day, he went down and he was on his wallet. The minute you go down, you give yourself up. And that linebacker, Al-Shirah, took 2 steps. Trevor Lawrence was already down and sitting. And Al-Shirah took 2 steps, led with his helmet, hit him with a cast on his forearm in the face mask.
Whoa.
So that's intent, attempt to injure. And by the way, the quarterback had already given up on the play. So now, if you're running along the sidelines and you're dipsy doodling, like maybe I'll step out of bounds or maybe I'll cut inside, you deserve to get blown up because you're still in play and you're still upright.
Mm-hmm.
But if Patrick Mahomes is sliding to the sidelines on his buttock, you can't. All you need to do is touch him if you wish. You don't even have to touch him. This guy blew Trevor Lawrence up to the point he was hospitalized, and now he's gone for the rest of the year. I mean, it was the intent to me, and the fact that he's a repeat offender. That's the thing that set everybody off around the league. It's the 3rd time he's had an incident nailing a guy either who was down or on the sidelines this year. He's also the one that had his hands around Tom Brady's throat on a tackle in Tampa Bay the last year that Brady played. And then this guy pulls out the race card and he pulls out the Islamic thing. These people are criticizing me because of who I am and what God I believe in. That is so far-fetched.
There's just so much of that story. But I'll say this though. Mahomes, he loves to do that deke thing, and that's the thing is when you play the Chiefs and you got like 3rd down and 17, it's not safe, because he can always do that. He can scramble, fake the slide, look like he's going out of bounds to your point, and then carve it upfield. The guy is unbelievable.
He's so gifted athletically. And by the way, you bring up the third down number.
Mm-hmm.
I should have mentioned this earlier. You know what their 3rd down conversion rate is?
Who?
52.
The Chiefs?
52% 3rd down conversion in Kansas City.
Wow.
Because of Mahomes.
Yeah, the guy's
or Travis Kelce.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just an amazing team. But yeah, I think to your point, they're getting all their all their guys off the injured list are coming back. They're going to be tough.
Is the wife going to be here to watch the pregame? I'm sure Taylor Swift is going to be on the pregame.
Yeah.
Okay.
We make some fun of that one for sure. Okay, let's keep moving here, and we'll go down. There's some interesting comments here. The first one was from Callan had a follow-up, and he says, "Hey, John, my Bash Brothers reference was to the Fulton Reed and Dean Portman from the Mighty Ducks films, but glad you also named McGuire and Canseco."
Bash Brothers fits. That works.
Yeah, that works. I like that. I like getting a little correction here. Let's go here to Flegel. He goes, Bieniemy has a long resume, but as you said, never a head coach. He did some recruiting for UCLA, but why no head coach job?
Didn't interview well in the NFL. And I don't know whether it's got to do with his persona on the practice field. He coaches players hard. He's really tough. The stories have kind of filtered out from UCLA this year because they closed practices. Or, I mean, he did not use the king's best English when his players screwed up on the practice field. He was really vocal.
Well,
And that was
that's
him. That was his
yeah.
style. Okay. But track record as an assistant, going back to Bill McCartney in Colorado, whom he played for, and obviously what he did at UCLA, and then what he's done in the NFL under Andy Reid. So he'll probably be back in the NFL as somebody's assistant, and maybe as a coordinator again. But I think the window is closed on him being a head coach because I think he's had 7 interviews in 2 years, did not get an offer.
Okay, let me put you on the hot seat. Let's say you're an owner and you have unlimited money and you can pick a new head coach. Would you go with someone like Bieniemy, who was a hot name for a while? Would you go with someone like Belichick, who was also a hot name for a while? I don't know if he still is. Or would you go for one of the hot, bright offensive, defensive coordinators somewhere else in the league?
Landscape is littered with coordinators who've turned out to be great head coaches. It's also littered by coordinators who absolutely failed.
Right.
It's all part of the interview process. It's all part of me being an owner, talking to other owners around the league about this guy was on your staff. Tell me about him. Or talking to head coaches who had this guy as a coordinator on my staff. Tell me about him. It's all the gathering of information. So that's where it is. Belichick's a different animal. Belichick had total control of everything in New England. And they won because of Brady and because of Belichick's ability to teach a different brand of defense. It takes a different type of player to want to play on a Belichick roster. If Belichick is willing to come work for me as a coach, I don't think I'm going to give him full authority in player personnel because his drafts weren't real good. They survived because of Brady. And when he left, they left Jared Mayo with kind of a ragtag roster of guys. There's no playmakers on that roster. So I think I'd hire Belichick as a coach. And if he wants to coach again at age 74 with a 27-year-old wife, that's okay. But he would be my head coach, and he'd have input as to the type of player that he needs to build a Belichick system. So Jacksonville might give him both. He's got a relationship with Shad Khan, and I think both those guys in Jacksonville are gone, and they've been wrecked by injuries. It's a much better team, but they got a better team on IR right now, wide receiver and quarterback and running back, than they have on the field because they've been decimated. But Belichick might get the dual position there. If it's Jets, Giants, Raiders, I think he comes in as a head coach, but somebody would be above him to work with him, work for him, work together.
I remember back in the 70s when I first started watching football that every team, the GM and the head coach were always 2 different people.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until the 80s or 90s when you get one guy who was the king of everything.
There's not enough hours in the day to do the job.
Well, no,
granted, you got subordinates who work under you, but the job's too cumbersome. I mean, it is so time-consuming just to game plan and to do video and to think about X's and O's and what you want to run next week compared to what you didn't work last week.
Yeah.
So how do you have time to meet with scouts? And the scouts are on the road and they're bringing in reports all the time. There's not enough hours in the day to do it.
In your opinion, who has done it the best? GM and head coach all in one has had the most success.
Well, the guy in Kansas City right now, Brett Veach. I mean, that's superb.
No, but he's not the head coach too.
No.
He's not.
Modern day?
Yeah.
Not many.
Yeah,
I thought you're just making remember who's the best general manager,
yeah.
player personnel. Guy in Philadelphia, Howie Roseman, and Brett Veach in Kansas City right now are the state-of-the-art guys.
Yeah, right on.
And Gutekunst in Green Bay has done a really good job. Now, Packers haven't gotten there yet, but man, they built that roster. I mean, post-quarterback era, post-Favre, post-Rodgers, they've done a good job in Green Bay.
Yeah, and plus the kid up in San Francisco.
John Lynch,
yeah, he's done a good job, I thought.
Yep. We'll say I think it's a tough job for one guy to do. If you've got a great working relationship, then it can be done.
Okay.
All right, let's do a couple more here before we wrap it up.
Oh, how about this one from David? And this is cool. And he says, David says, I have 2 tickets to Padres Dodgers to give away to your listeners. I'll email them, Hacksaw.
Okay, we'll pass it on to John Riley, and we'll
thank
figure
you
out a
very
way
much.
how to do
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, we'll figure that one out.
Thanks, David.
Okay, let's go here to social media and get a couple of comments here. And let's start with USC football. This is from Oldie 400. He says, running back was not a problem with Southern California. Woody Marks and Joyner are both great talents. Offensive play calling was horrendous. Didn't help that Moss isn't a mobile quarterback, but a good pocket passer. NIL been a killer trying to recruit top talent. Teams like Oregon, Ohio State, SEC schools offer more. But good news is SC is working on it.
Well, they're working on it, but you would have thought that it would have been a slam dunk with Lincoln Riley and his history of what he accomplished at Oklahoma, that he'd be able to go get anybody he wanted. He lost 13 players by the beginning of the season to signing date this week. He had 13 national commits, a bunch from California, who left. Play calling, game management, that's a big problem. Erosion of the running game, which was a vital part of the greatness of USC for a long time. It's not what it is now. And the transfer portal has changed a lot of things, and NIL's changed a lot of things. But this is SC. We're not talking about East Carolina. We're talking about USC. So that's where we are today. He's got a road to run uphill, and we'll see what he does next year.
It's amazing how far off Lincoln Riley has fallen.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like a golden boy there like a few years ago. So, okay, let's keep moving. Let's get another comment here. Let's talk. This is a good one about the big brawl in college football. And this is from Kevin. And he goes, they shouldn't fine any Michigan player for that because they ain't the first time and they've ever done that with the flag. We did it last time we beat them at Ohio State too. It didn't cause a brawl. It didn't cause a brawl when Baker Mayfield did it when he played for Oklahoma and they beat him. That was all due to Ohio State players getting salty that they got beat up for the 4th straight year and then act like a bunch of little babies.
It was out of control and it got dangerous because now you don't want, fans pour on the field. Now what do you got? Now you got something. There's not enough security guys out there to cope with the whole thing. They have the video of which Ohio State players threw punches to start this whole thing. I was really aghast that Ryan Day did nothing. He stood on the sidelines, did nothing to try to stop it. There was a similar incident at the end of Texas A&M, and Steve Sarkisian came out of the tunnel, went to the 50-yard line and grabbed his players and said, "We're not doing this. We're going off the field." And there was no incident at the end of the Texas A&M game because of what Sarkisian did. But there were 4 other games that there were scary incidents. And, pushing and shoving and being a man suddenly can become a fight, which could become a really bad brawl. That's what I have to say.
It's interesting how in college sports the players fight, but in pro sports the fans fight. It's just and when the guys grow up and become pros, yeah, they're my opponent on the field, but they're still my friend. So it's just funny how the dynamics change.
Okay, one more here on social media.
Okay, let's go. This is a good one here. This is from Botanical Brian. He goes, "Hey, old man, remember when Woody Hayes punched a player, huh? Do you?"
Hey, Botanical Brian, let's be respectful of the host. The host is bleeping brilliant. Please understand that. Yes, I was at a Christmas party. I was in the University of Akron. I'd done their games. And we were at a Christmas party with the coaches. We were just watching a game. And I went to the Akron U head coach was standing next to me. I said, "Did Woody just punch that Clemson player?" And they showed the replay. I said, "He sure as hell did." Of course, Woody got fired for doing it. So, you ask these guys to play on the edge. You ask these guys to play with great emotion. You ask these guys to play with physicality. But you need to draw the line. That was a great football game. It was a tough football game. It was a hard game for them to lose at the Horseshoe. But you can't have that kind of stuff because that kind of stuff can escalate into something much, much worse. And you would never, ever want that. And so hopefully this was a one-time flashpoint that won't be tolerated again. But for Ryan Day to stand there and do nothing, and then in his post-game press conference, when asked about what his players did, his response was, "We're never going to allow anybody ever to do that on our field." He's sanctioning.
Yeah, not in my house.
Yeah,
that's
get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to. The Woody Hayes comment is interesting. Take me back into the Wayback Machine when Woody Hayes was at Ohio State and Bo Schembechler was at Michigan. How would you describe those coaches during their heyday?
They were both Miami of Ohio guys from the cradle of coaches.
Hey.
So there was a lot of respect to what they had both done. And Woody had elevated Ohio State to prominence, and Bo came in and made Michigan something really special. And they might have been fierce competitors, and they might have disliked each other on game week and all that. And Woody totally refused to use the word Michigan. He only referred to it as the school up north. And, the confrontations with Woody and the media were legendary. But at the end of the day, they shook hands and they respected each other. And when Woody passed, Bo was there at the funeral. So there was great respect, even though it was Ohio State, Michigan, but there was great respect because they were both Miami of Ohio Redskins.
Yeah, but it's just such a different era.
Oh, yeah, very.
It's like when men were men and all that. But it's just funny how they have permeated the culture of their universities and really the sports world. Because we still hear about I want a Michigan man to run my Michigan program. That was Steve Fisher, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or so it's amazing. These guys, that war, that rivalry, Ohio State, Michigan, has got to be the top rivalry in all of college football.
There are great rivalries everywhere. I mean, I broadcast Arizona State, Arizona, the Centennial Cup. That's pretty electric.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Civil War game, Oregon State in the mud. That was fun. Apple Cup is huge. Washington State. The old Oaken Bucket in Indianapolis. It's like the rest of the world doesn't exist. You're an Indiana or you're a Purdue fan. Harvard, Yale. For those of us intellectually, they'll not be candidates to go to an Ivy League school, not like you, who was legacied into UCSD, but those who could go to Harvard, Yale, Ivy League, that is such a different environment. But boy, that's big time too. So those rivalry games are everywhere. Hey, listen, we thank you for being part of what's been a kind of a dynamic Friday.